What if Montezuma's warriors never stopped at the shores of Florida, but instead went on to conquer all of Europe? The year is 1521 and the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma II is surveying his vast domain. His empire stretches from the northern borders of what is today the United States down through Central America to the Isthmus of Panama. For generations, the Aztecs have dreamed of a mythical land beyond the Eastern Ocean, a place where the sun is born. Now, thanks to the recently discovered sea route to the east, Moctezuma knows that this paradise is within reach. But there are signs that the Spanish are also interested in claiming this new world for themselves. Will Montezuma risk everything to seize this opportunity and lead his empire into the old world? Or will he let it slip through his fingers? As we know, Moctezuma did neither. The Spanish conquistadors led by Cortez would go on to destroy the Aztec Empire. But here, our timeline diverges from our own. Our conquistadors have done the unthinkable, killing one another in the streets of Tenochtitlan. And in the wake of this unprecedented victory, the Aztec Emperor sees an opportunity to expand his influence across the rest of the Caribbean and the southeastern coast of the United States. As he assembles a fleet of hundreds of canoes bound for the mysterious Eastern Paradise, the people of the Florida Peninsula cower in their cities as the likes of which they have never seen before arrive. Their gods must be angry, for these invaders have come bearing not just men and weapons, but serpents with wings and storms of fire. By the end of the century, the Aztecs have conquered all of the native peoples of the United States and have expanded their territory to include what is today the entire continental United States, Central America, Mexico, and the southern tip of Florida. While the European powers are aware of the threat posed by this new world, they are preoccupied with conflicts of their own. Thus, for the next 100 years, the Aztecs enjoy peace along the Gulf Coast, all the while amassing a massive navy. Finally, in 1671, the Spanish begin to take notice. King Charles II of Spain tasks conquistador Francisco Pizarro with heading an expedition to put an end to the Aztec threat once and for all. But this time, Pizarro finds himself not on the receiving end, but on the giving end of the Aztec hospitality, as he is captured and executed by Moctezuma's forces. With Pizarro dead and his fleet destroyed, the Aztecs turn their attention towards the old world. In 1680, Moctezuma set sail for Europe with a fleet of over 200 canoes carrying 20,000 men, women, and children. Most of Europe is caught off guard, but the Portuguese resist fiercely, though they too are eventually defeated by the Aztec forces. After taking control of the Iberian Peninsula, the Aztecs set their sights on the rest of Western Europe. Within just a few years, the mighty Aztec Empire is now the dominant force in all of Europe. The region has never seen such power concentrated in the hands of a single entity. But the question remains, what happens now? As the Aztec Empire enters its imperial phase, it institutes many of its Mesoamerican customs, traditions, and practices across its new lands. All of Europe is required to convert to the worship of the Aztec gods, and those who resist are either killed or enslaved. Although much of Europe is resistant to the worship of strange gods associated with jaguars, serpents, and human sacrifice, the Aztec practice of human sacrifice quickly becomes widespread throughout Europe. In fact, in this alternate timeline, it becomes so popular that it even influences the Aztec god of war, Huitzilopochtli, to become more merciful, as he finds the needless slaughter of humans rather distasteful. Still, the Aztecs ruled over their European subjects with a firm fist. They built grand temples to their gods in every major city and demanded that the kings of England, France, and the Holy Roman Empire pay tribute to the Aztec emperor. The Aztec nobility were given titles such as Tlatoani, and the common folk were forced to wear distinctive clothing and speak Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs. Despite the resistance, some aspects of Aztec culture did find acceptance in Europe. One surprising example is the concept of the Mesoamerican long count calendar, which actually impressed European scholars due to its advanced mathematical concepts. However, the Aztecs were less than impressed by European mathematics, which in their eyes was hopelessly primitive compared to their own. Other aspects of Aztec culture were less well received, such as their insistence on human sacrifice. Still, despite the differences, there was much that the Aztecs and Europeans could learn from each other. The Europeans were fascinated by the Aztec concept of the afterlife and their elaborate burial rituals, while the Aztecs were impressed by European architecture and their advanced agricultural techniques. Despite these differences, however, the two cultures were able to coexist in a way that was mutually beneficial. The Aztecs gained access to the wealth and resources of Europe, while the Europeans were exposed to new ideas and ways of thinking that had never before been seen in their world. During this time, the Ottoman Empire was rapidly expanding and soon began encroaching on Aztec-held territories in the Mediterranean. For the Aztecs, this presented an unexpected opportunity. By forming an alliance with the Austrians, the Aztecs were able to gain control of the lucrative trade routes in the region. Unfortunately, the Ottoman advance into Europe would prove unstoppable, and the Ottomans would go on to conquer all of southern Europe, forcing the Aztecs to retreat back into Central Europe. Here, the Aztecs would establish a defensive line of fortifications and prepare for a long siege. The Ottomans would lay siege to the Aztec stronghold for years, but the Aztecs were prepared. With their advanced military technology, including cavalry armed with guns and swords, as well as elite shock troops known as the Eagle Warriors, the Aztecs were able to hold off the Ottoman Empire. The stalemate would last for several decades until the Ottoman Sultan finally gave up and retreated back to the Middle East. Now free from the threat of invasion, the Aztec Empire would enter a period of peace and prosperity, during which time the Aztecs would focus on expanding their culture and influence throughout Europe. During the mid-1700s, the Aztec Emperor decided to hold a great contest to determine who could travel to the mythical Eastern Paradise. Naturally, the French and British were eager to win the competition and embarked on expeditions to be the first to reach the fabled lands. Both expeditions would set sail in the same year, 1769, and after a long and arduous journey, both would reach the same conclusion: the earth is flat. But when the French began to claim the lands for the King of France, the British would object, starting the first of many conflicts between the two empires. The French and Indian Wars fought between the Aztecs and a coalition of European powers. The Aztecs are victorious, but suffer heavy losses. The war ends with the Treaty of Paris, in which the Aztecs are forced to recognize the sovereignty of the Native Americans over the lands west of the Mississippi. With their empire now stretched to its limits, the Aztecs would enter a period of decline. The once great empire was now a shadow of its former self, plagued by internal strife and external threats. The Aztec emperor was assassinated in 1796, and the empire was thrown into chaos. In the ensuing power vacuum, the French seized control of the Aztec capital and established a puppet government. Soon, the rest of Europe would follow suit, and the Aztec Empire would cease to exist. So what would happen to this alternate version of Earth? Would the European nations eventually rise up and take back their home continent? Or would the Native Americans continue to expand their empire? Perhaps the most likely outcome is that the two cultures would continue to coexist, each influencing the other in small ways over time. Eventually, the native populations of Europe would assimilate into Aztec culture, while the Aztecs would adopt some of the European customs. The result would be a unique hybrid culture that combined the best of both worlds. So in the end, the Aztec conquest of Europe may not have been the disaster that it initially appeared to be. In fact, it may have been the catalyst for a new and better world. What do you think? How would the world be different if the Aztecs had conquered Europe? Let me know your thoughts below. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and leave a like. If you want to watch more of my videos, click here. I'll see you next time.